and welcome to our English news edition coming to you from Canal, Algérie. First, to the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, chairs on a meeting of the Council of Ministers devoted to the examination and debate of bills relating to several sectors. Al-Hajjar Steel and Iron Complex is back to being fully operational after 2 weeks of maintenance work. In agriculture, the local authorities of Al Bayd province are expecting a production that exceeds 100,000 quintals, an additional step towards self-sufficiency in the province and the neighboring provinces. The Makhzen regime is desperately trying to stop popular anger by using violent repressive means, and several strikes programs are using violent repressive means, and they are announced in several vital sectors starting from Monday. First, good evening, those were the headlines. First, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, chaired on Sunday a meeting of the Council of Ministers devoted to the examination and debate of bills relating to several sectors. After listening to a presentation made by the Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman on the government's activity for the last 2 weeks, the President of the Republic gave the following instructions. First, he stressed the importance of the audiovisual draft bill and its role in promoting media practice within the framework of freedom of expression in order to serve the homeland and its citizens. Finalized draft bill on information and the draft law on the written and electronic press. Second, concerning the conditions and modalities of granting concession of private state lands intended for investment projects, the President of the Republic stressed the following. To continue the enrichment of the proposed project, to define the nature of the relationship between the state services and real estate agencies to be created for the granting and management of all types of economic lands, to grant the agencies in charge of the economic land a particular status, allowing them to manage the zones and parks constituting their land portfolio. Regarding the Housing Bank and the project of opening bank agencies abroad, the President of the Republic instructed the Finance Minister to prepare the law text establishing the Housing Bank within a period not exceeding 1 month, to prepare the transitional phase between the National Savings and Provident Fund and the National Housing Fund for the effective launch of the Housing Bank. The Council of Ministers also approved the strategy of opening bank branches abroad, especially in African countries. As for the progress of the project of achievement of 5 new desalination plants, the President of the Republic instructed the government to continue the implementation of the national strategy for the development of non-conventional water resources, especially regarding the implementation of projects for the achievement of 5 desalination plants of seawater within the time limits in order to improve the supply of drinking water to citizens. Concerning the transport sector, the Council approved a draft of 2 contracts between the National Agency for Studies and Monitoring the Implementation of Railway Investment and 2 groups of national public enterprises for the implementation of the railway Khanshla Ain al-Bayda in al-Baqi province. Before the end of the meeting, the high cost of Hajj for this season, and which was due to international economic conditions, has been discussed as well. The Council of Ministers approved the subsidy of the travel tickets for pilgrims by lowering the tickets price by 100,000 dinars. The President of the Republic then instructed the Transport Minister to compensate the people who have already paid their tickets with the old price. Al-Hajjar Steel and Iron Complex resumed its activity after 2 weeks. It has benefited during this period from a 95% Algerian maintenance work. This complex, which also focuses on exportation, has reached last year $70 million in export only. More details with Leticia Sidqawi.
A period of maintenance that affected the system of prevention and operation of steel production equipment. Al Hajjar Steel Complex in Annaba province has resumed its activity. The operation, carried out on time, was crowned with success, allowing to start the steel casting operations and resume production through all the complex units. Exceptionally this year, we have advanced the maintenance operation at the level of the production units in May. 95 of the maintenance work was carried out by the workers at the Sidaq complex of Al Hajjar, with the exception of specialties that we do not have, such as civil engineering. The maintenance process that required the shutdown of production activity in the hot zone is part of the periodic maintenance program aimed at preserving the equipment of the steel production line of the complex. In 2021, more than 300,000 tons of steel products were manufactured in this complex. During the maintenance period, we have made every arrangement to ensure that our customers have all the products they need. We have resumed our regular production rate. This complex also focuses on exportation. Last year, the equivalents of $70 million were exported towards Italy, Egypt, and Syria. The shortage of raw materials and the rise in prices did not allow us to achieve our first quarter goals. We aim to produce an additional 25,000 tons by the next quarter, the equivalent of $22 million. Many ambitions for this flagship of the steel industry, which has benefited from a recovery plan with a workforce of 4,600 workers. This complex provides for production of about 800,000 tons of steel products for the year 2022.
Investment projects and major plans for the thermal paper production unit of Tlemcen province, one of the most important factories in the region, with a production capacity of 15,000 tons per year. The factory, which already exports to 5 countries, intends to open up to the African market. Story by Ines Kello.
Installed in the industrial zone of Tlemcen province, this factory produces more than 15,000 tons of paper. Its specialty is thermal paper rolls, a product highly demanded in the financial sector.
We export our product to Italy, Switzerland, Argentina, United States, and Tunisia. The thermal paper is used in the cash registers, electronic payment, terminals, and ATMs.
Another key product in this unit is adhesive thermal paper, a paper that is impregnated with several layers of chemical component, which allow it to be heat sensitive.
I was recruited in this company for the cutting and transformation of all varieties of paper made here. I'm specialized in the manufacturing of adhesive paper for stickers.
We hope that this new investment law will eventually improve the business climate in order to make the most of Algeria's potentials. In operation of nearly 6 years, this production unit of thermal paper covers the needs of the local market. Its ambition today is further invest in the African market and thus became one of the important exporters of this type of paper in the continent.
Moving on to agriculture, albeit the province is on its way to self-sufficiency with a production that exceeds 100,000 quintals of grains, and the local authorities in the province have mobilized all the necessary means for the harvest and storage operations. More insight with Najah Tayyar.
We are in Al Biyad. Grain fields are far as the eyes can see, in a steppe region which has forged an agricultural vocation over time, particularly in cereal growing. We have a good harvest here. As you can see, the harvest is abundant and it will be sold to the state. The goal is achieved thanks to the support and accompanying measures adopted for the benefit of the farmers. The local authorities are expecting a production that exceeds 100,000 quintals. We have mobilized all the necessary means for the company Moisson Battage with regard to the storage of the harvest and its transport to the grain storage and treatment company CCLS of Al Biyad. We expect a harvest of more than 100,000 quintals. The company Moisson Battage of this year in Al Biyad concerns 7,102 hectares. According to the forecast, it will give 102,000 quintals in the season, which will be stored in the warehouses of the region. One more step towards self-sufficiency in Al-Biyad. The harvest will meet the demand of the local market, also the demand of the neighboring provinces.
Moving on to the parliamentary activity, a training session in the National People's Assembly was organized at the headquarters for the benefit of members of the parliamentary friendship groups with African countries. The session took place in the presence of the President of the National People's Assembly, academics, university researchers, and executives of the Foreign Affairs Ministry and the National People's Assembly. In a statement made on the occasion, Brahim Boughali said that Algeria took a big step under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, to regain its place in the regional and international scenes. In another context, 740,000 students will take the middle school certificate exam for the third consecutive year. This event will take place according to a health protocol to prevent against the COVID-19 pandemic. More details with Rani Al-Bahri.
In this examination center, the educational staff looks back on the final preparations to ensure the smooth running of the middle cycle examinations. Presentation of badges, examination tables, and strict instructions are on the program. This meeting consists of setting up the surveillance program and the recovery of badges. We have displayed the exam tables. We are here to ensure the compliance with the school safety standards and the importance of applying the health protocol against COVID-19. It's also a question of ensuring compliance with the safety measures to ensure the smooth running of this exam. Our mission is to distribute the exam sheets to the supervisors. As you know, each class of exam has 3 supervisors, including one responsible of receiving the copies. The goal is to avoid cheating. The student will only have his copy in green or in brown color. The students of medium educational cycle will pass their examinations for 3 days. As regard to the test schedules, the examination centers will be open from 7:30 a.m. to allow candidates to present their national identity cards. As a reminder, mobile phones are prohibited at the entrance. There will be nearly 740,000 candidates spread over 2,800 exam centers for this June 2022 session.
The baccalaureate exam is going to take place next Sunday. The students are getting ready with their own different methods, whereas the psychological and educational support provided for the students with special needs are of great importance to accompany them through their journey towards success. Story by Najah Tayar.
Despite their disabilities, Abdelmalik and his friends continue their studies as normal as possible. They even attend support classes to be completely ready for the various exams that await for them. The communication is a bit difficult with them. The qualified teacher uses several methods in the classroom, like sign language and writing, theatrical performances, and even drawing. I have managed to communicate clearly with my friends, and I hope that we will succeed all together. Despite the autism, Nazim went through numerous stages successfully to improve. As for Fadia, her hearing problems do not prevent her from realizing her dream of going to the university. I revise at home all alone. I hope that I will pass my baccalaureate exam. I revised the Islamic Sciences module and I am very optimistic about passing the exam. We have 33 students that have the baccalaureate exam and 27 others have the BEM exam. We are proud of these numbers and we are receiving more students now. And we have a special program that will be so helpful for all. The efforts of the specialists of the sector reflect the psychological and educational supports that are provided in order to make these students with specific needs a shining example of success.
In other news, and on the occasion of the World Environment Day celebrated on the 5th of June of each year, a virtual exhibition on waste started on Sunday. This third edition focused on promoting investment for waste management projects. The Environment Minister Samia Moualfi kicked off this event at the International Conference Center here in Algiers, an event which brought together economic operators as well as national and international experts. It is worth noting that the conference as well as debates are scheduled until the 7th of the current month. In another development, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ramtala Mamara, took part on Sunday via video conference in a meeting of the Arab Contact Group on the crisis in Ukraine. The meeting also brought together the Foreign Minister of Egypt, Jordan, Sudan, United Arab Emirates, Iraq, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as well as the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, Ahmed Abul Ghaith. The meeting was an opportunity to discuss the development in the Ukrainian crisis, namely the ways to contribute to international diplomatic efforts to find a peaceful solution, in addition to working to mitigate the impact of the crisis on the Arab countries, notably in terms of food security and energy. In the capital Algiers, a commemoration stele was inaugurated on Sunday in honor of the activist and friend of the Algerian Revolution, Maurice Audin. The bust was placed in Maurice Audin Square in the capital Algiers in the presence of the Minister of War Veterans El-Aid Rebiga, as well as the son of the late Maurice Audin, Pierre, who expressed on the occasion his pride to be in a place that bears the name of his father, a supporter of the Algerian independence. Earlier in the day, and on the occasion of the 65th anniversary of the death of Maurice Audin, a conference recounting the late journey and sacrifices was organized at El Mujahid Museum. The Minister of Mujahideen affirmed on the spot that the Algerian state will not skimp on the means to recover the mortal remains of the deceased militant and the Algerian archives. Finally, the Josette and Maurice Audin Association honored the family of the friend of the Algerian Revolution. Concerning the Sahrawi file, the member of the National Secretariat, the official of the political organization, and the head of the negotiating delegation of the Polisario Front, Khatri Ado, confirmed that the political process and peace efforts are on hold, along with the negotiation process with the Moroccan occupier, and the International Solidarity Front with the Sahrawi cause forced the Makhzen regime to submit to the peace process through the different diplomatic and media channels. The Makhzen regime is desperately trying to stop the popular discontent by using all means, whether it's violent repressions, arrests, or threats, while the different Moroccan institutions announced a series of strikes starting Monday. Rania Bahri has the details.
These pictures are now an integral part of Moroccans' daily life, which are raising their voices to protest against the bad living conditions at a time when the king and his relatives are possessing all powers and monopolize the wealth of the country to live a luxurious lifestyle at the expense of Moroccans. Desperately trying to contain the anger of the streets, the Makhzen activates each time a fierce security apparatus to repress the demonstrators, but the disproportionate use of force in no way undermines the determination of people thirsty for social justice. A series of strikes is thus planned in several sectors. The National Coordination of Education officials announces a strike starting from this Monday, denouncing the attitude of the Moroccan authorities, who are deafless to their demands. The strike will be marked by a big march from the headquarters of the Ministry of Education to the Parliament. A national strike in the higher education sector is also scheduled on June the 7th, 8th and 9th, in protest against a reform of the sector described as senseless. In other words, Morocco lives to the rhythm of popular demonstrations against the backdrop of economic crisis, illustrating the anger of Moroccans. In addition to the economic crisis which is hitting Morocco, the policy of normalization with the Zionist entity continues to arouse the indignation of Moroccans, who shows their solidarity with the Palestinian people, denouncing the opening of Zionist news channel offices in Casablanca and Rabat.
The Moroccan people are committed to maintain pressure. A national strike in the sector of higher education is scheduled for the 7th, 8th and 9th of June. This strike is part of the protest cycle started some time ago by teachers and researchers against the refusal of dialogue with the National Office of the Union of the Sector. For its part, the Moroccan University of Vocational Training announced that it would begin its protest program on Tuesday. The Moroccan Coordination of Contractual Teachers, for its part, planned to renew its protest program for the next 3 months, starting on Monday. And finally, Oran province is getting ready to welcome the 19th edition of the Mediterranean Games in the best conditions, a mega sporting event that will witness the participation of athletes from all over the world. Leticia Sidqawi has the details.
Algeria, an extremely diverse and rich country, is preparing to welcome the 19th edition of the Mediterranean Games with great fanfare. The Mediterranean city by excellence, El Bahia, flaunts its most beautiful assets to welcome its guests. Algeria is easily able to welcome its foreign visitors. Our youth have all they need in Algeria, and we are comfortable in our country. We are very proud and happy with the level of our youth, touristic assets and economic potential, as well as the generosity of the people that have welcomed the visitors with love and hospitality under the sky of a diversified country with a rich history everywhere you go. We welcome everyone. May this joy last. We wish more prosperity for our country. Stability, prosperity, and grand touristic and economic potentialities, major assets of Algeria that will welcome its guests during the Mediterranean Games in the best conditions.
And with this, our today's news edition comes to a close. Thank you for joining us.